Okay everybody, welcome to this video. What I'm going to do here is I want to talk about some of the tablature notation things that might be a little bit confusing. Unfortunately, as is the case with any type of notation system, simply trying to write out a guitar solo has its challenges because there's a lot of things you can do when you're playing that don't necessarily, they're not easy to write out, they're not simple. So we're going to talk about some of the bending notations and parentheses and grace notes and all these different kinds of things, and hopefully this will all make a lot more sense. So I have my cursor here is right up here in the second bar. This is actually from Solo 2 out of the book, so I hope you can see my cursor okay. You'll notice that I've got here the 9th fret being bent up a full step. It tells you that right there, that it's a full step. And that's a very simple bend. It's a bend up and then it's choked. So notice that there's no arrow coming back down. If I was going to bend and release like that, then you would see an arrow going up and down, for example, right here. You see right here, there is the 9 is being bent up a full step, then it's coming back down, and then you'll notice that it's in parentheses here. The parentheses, anytime you see something in parentheses, you can effectively ignore it. You're not going to play it. It indicates that the note is held from before. In standard notation, if you can see my cursor right now, in standard notation you see we have what's called a tie. And this connects these two notes, in this case they're B's, and this second quarter note B is connected to this first 8th note B by the tie, and what that means is that you'd strike the first one but just hold the second one. And down below you can see the same thing in tab. We write the 9, we put the other one in parentheses. Now, you don't have to always put the number in parentheses, and I'll be perfectly honest, I don't in many cases. It's just a nicety. It's a nice thing that you can do to show somebody, a little bit more clearly how it's supposed to sound. So again, if we look at the well, I can actually do it all right here. Here we have the bend just by itself, and then it stops, as opposed to right over here, the bend that goes up and down. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I'm gonna scroll here. Oh, now here you see we have the arc. This little looks like a tie. It's called a slur mark. Anytime something is slurred, that's an indication that it's either a hammer-on or a pull-off. So right there, this indicates that that 10th fret is to be hammered on. I think that's probably explained better in other parts of the course, but that's what those mean. So, for example, here is a pull-off. Down here is another pull-off. Obviously, there's a lot of them, throughout. So let me go down here a little bit more, and we have one of the probably biggest points of confusion. This is the idea of what's called a grace note. And I know that I do cover this when I talk about this particular section of the solo, but it won't hurt to go over this again. You see how this note here is very small, and it has a little line through its flag. That indicates what's called a grace note, and it goes with the little 7. Grace notes in tab are just made smaller than the rest. Grace notes are notes that happen so fast that they don't even get their own time. They don't even get a 16th note or even a 32nd note. They're that fast. They're almost instant. They just add a little bit of flair or grace to what you're playing. And in this case, what this means is that you're actually going to strike, you're going to bar, because you're going to have that 7 and that 7 simultaneously. But as soon as you pluck them, this 7 is going to turn into that 9. You're going to do a hammer-on, and the slur right here is what indicates that for us. We're going to actually slur on and off. So that's going to be a hammer on and a pull off. So it'll sound like this. So notice that as soon as I strike those 7s, I immediately, if I do it really slow, I almost immediately hammer onto that 9. Okay? And I'll scroll down a little further here. There's another interesting little thing you'll see. By the way, here's another grace note right here. So that would be... So I strike the 9, but immediately go to the 11. This here, you'll notice we have the 12th fret bent up by a full step. Here you have a straight line going up, and what looks like a grace note, actually. But it's not. It's a little bit different. You'll notice that this version up here doesn't have a stem. What this is, you're gonna bend that 12th fret up by the full step. But whenever you have a note where the line is going straight up, that indicates what we call a ghost bend or a pre-bend, meaning you're gonna have bent it before you pick it. So if this 12 was not here, if we had not already bent up that note, we would first bend it and then pluck it, so it would sound like this. So I bend it up, and then I pluck it, and then because of the down arrow, I release it. In our case, we have already bent it up by a full step, so I'll bend it up, and then I'll pluck it again, but because of the straight line, I won't release it first. So that's what that whole lick sounds like. So I've got the bend up, then I pluck it again, then I come down, that's in parentheses so I don't pluck it again, pull off to the 10th fret, and play the 12th. Okay? Let's talk about a couple of other little things here that crop up later on. Here's one. This little wavy line right here indicates vibrato, or a heavier than normal vibrato. So, as I've mentioned before, I don't talk a lot about vibrato. I don't think it's something that you need to concentrate on, but occasionally we use vibrato in sort of an extreme way. I like to really shake a note and really get a lot of vibrato out of it. So when I do that, I'll notate it with that squiggly line. Sometimes you'll see people write things out and they use that squiggly line for, well, pretty much every single note. And that just kind of seems a little ridiculous to me, because as you get better, you're going to tend to vibrato just about everything. And you know, it's pretty easy to get carried away with notating vibrato. Okay, let's go down here to one of my final examples. Sorry, that scrolls by fast. Alright, as you can see right here, we have some slur marking, but there are some straight lines between the notes. The straight lines indicate a slide. So you can actually, you know, do a slur, but instead of doing a hammer-on or a pull-off, do a slide. So in this case, you're actually going to play 7, slide up to 8, slide back to 7, and then it says to slide down to 5. So I'm going to have 7, slide up to 8, slide down to 7, slide down to 5, all with one motion. Now, in actuality, that slide to the 5th fret may or may not be the best way to play that. You could also do it with a pull-off if that feels better to you. At any point in this course, If there's a technique that's described that doesn't feel comfortable, and you, like, something says it should be slurred but you prefer to pick it, or something says to be picked but you prefer it slurred, either hammered on or pulled off or slid or whatever, by all means do it. Whatever, however it feels comfortable to you, do that. There's no right or wrong on some of this stuff. There's only the way that I did it. So in this case, like I said, there's the slide, and I just really like the sound of the slide. Here's another spot right over here where I did it, and I just like the sound of that. So if that feels good to you, then great. If you really dislike the slide, it definitely requires a lot of control over your instrument to slide like that and get to where you need to be. So it might take some time to develop. You'll notice right down here there's this full, and then it says hold, bend, and there's these little dotted lines right here. That indicates how long you're supposed to hold that bend. So I'm going to bend that 6th fret up, and then I'm going to play all those notes. And the hold bend means exactly what it says. It just means to hold the bend out and not drop it. So that's pretty much it. There's the standard, bend and release. Anything in parentheses you pretty much ignore. Make note over notes that are bent up a full step and not released. Those are the ones you want to choke. And I think that's pretty much all of the kind of unusual tab symbols that you might run across. So hope you enjoyed this, and hope it's useful to you. Talk soon.